Almost anything you pick up at home likely has 3 words stamped on it: made in China. These words symbolize our globalized world, but it wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, made in America, made in Japan, or made in Germany ruled. How did China become the world's factory? And why are we now moving away from made in China? Welcome to the Great Manufacturing Shift, a tale of dreams, innovation, disruption, and change. A time-traveling adventure spanning the globe. Join us as we delve into the rise and fall of made in China and what this means for the world's manufacturing future. Strap in, because change is the only constant in our story. Our journey to understand how China became a manufacturing heavyweight takes us back to the mid-20th century. Under Chairman Mao Zedong's rule, China was a different place, primarily farming-based with a centrally planned economy. Mao's death in 1976 brought new leadership and new ideas. Deng Xiaoping opened China's economy to the world, focusing on practical steps to increase productivity, reduce poverty, and position China as a global economic player. Deng's strategy included creating special economic zones, which invited foreign investment and allowed capitalism to flourish. This was a significant shift from Mao's policies and was China's first step towards becoming a manufacturing powerhouse. In the 1980s and 1990s, foreign businesses flocked to these zones, attracted by inexpensive labor, lenient regulations, and the lure of the Chinese market. The era of made in China was born. But this was just the start. China had a massive labor force and was rapidly developing infrastructure. However, challenges and opportunities awaited, transforming it into the global manufacturing behemoth we see today. China didn't turn into the world's factory overnight. It was a perfect storm of several elements coming together at the right moment. First, China has the world's largest population, giving it a large labor force. Many workers moved from rural areas to cities for better jobs, ready to work in factories. Second, labor was much cheaper than in Western countries. This made China a cost-effective choice for businesses to manufacture goods. Third, China pumped money into its infrastructure, setting up efficient transport networks and logistics capabilities. This ensured goods could be delivered quickly and reliably to international markets. Finally, the Chinese government played a big part in offering incentives for foreign investments and subsidies for key industries. This created a friendly environment for manufacturing. These elements combined to propel China to its position as the world's leading manufacturer. However, this status would soon be challenged. Let's look at 2 major players, Apple and Nike, who were instrumental in this eastward shift. Apple, the tech giant famous for its iPhones and Macs, started manufacturing in China in the early 2000s. The decision wasn't just about lower costs. China's ability to gather a large workforce quickly, critical to meeting the high demand for Apple's products, was a significant factor. Nike, the sportswear titan, has been produced in China since the 1980s. The initial motivation was cost, but China's manufacturing expertise and product quality became equally valuable. Apple and Nike are just 2 examples of countless companies across industries that chose China for manufacturing, contributing to the dominance of made in China. However, this shift towards China had effects far beyond the companies involved, impacting the global economy. The made in China rise touched every corner of the globe. Let's start with the economic effects. Economically, China's leap into a manufacturing powerhouse increased its GDP, becoming the world's second largest economy. It also revolutionized the global supply chain, with countries depending on China for many goods worldwide. However, this economic growth came with a heavy price for the environment. China's rapid industrialization led to more pollution and environmental damage, adding to worldwide climate change worries. Social impacts were significant too. While millions of Chinese people escaped poverty, factory workers' conditions became a hot topic worldwide. Low wages, long hours, and poor safety became dark shadows behind the Made in China label. Politically, China's manufacturing dominance led to friction with other countries. China was accused of stealing intellectual property and unfair trade practices, which strained relations with Western countries, especially the United States. In countries like the US, transferring manufacturing jobs to China sparked a backlash against globalization. It led to significant changes in domestic economic policies. So, the Made in China story is not only about its rise as a manufacturing giant, it's also about the ripple effects of this rise on the world stage. But as we'll see next, these impacts began to trigger changes. As China's manufacturing sector expanded, so did its problems. A significant issue was the rising labor cost. As China grew wealthier, workers started demanding better pay and conditions. This eroded one of China's key advantages, its cheap labor force. Environmental issues also came to the fore. Due to internal and international pressure, the Chinese government began implementing stricter environmental regulations. These increased manufacturing costs. Intellectual property rights remained a significant issue. Accusations of IP theft continued to dog China, creating tension with other nations and raising worries about the safety of proprietary technology among companies. Geopolitical tensions added to the complexities. Trade practice disputes led to tariffs and trade wars, especially with the United States, resulting in an unstable business environment. These problems created significant obstacles for the manufacturing sector, leading some to wonder whether the Made in China era was starting to crumble. And indeed, these pressures began to trigger a shift. Some companies started to look elsewhere for their manufacturing needs, signaling a new phase in the global manufacturing landscape. With rising costs and uncertainty, some companies started rethinking their manufacturing strategies. The result was a move away from China and towards other countries. Countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico became appealing alternatives. They offered lower labor costs, improved infrastructure, and in some cases were closer to key markets. This trend, often called the China Plus One strategy, saw companies diversify their manufacturing base to reduce dependence on China. Advances in automation and AI made manufacturing in higher-cost countries viable, but the shift was about more than just other low-cost countries. Some companies began bringing manufacturing back home, a process known as reshoring. This shift from China marked a new chapter in the global manufacturing story, but it also raised more questions. What does this mean for China? And what does the future hold for global manufacturing? As we navigate this changing landscape, the future of global manufacturing is taking shape. Automation, artificial intelligence, and reshoring all have significant roles. Automation is a game changer, reducing the importance of labor costs and reshaping factories. Robots are increasingly doing tasks once performed by humans. Artificial intelligence is also playing a crucial role. It enhances productivity, quality, and efficiency in manufacturing. From predictive maintenance to quality control, AI is transforming the factory floor. Reshoring, or bringing manufacturing back to the home country, is becoming more feasible due to these technological advances. Companies are reconsidering the cost and risk of long supply chains and choosing to produce closer to their markets. This change reshapes the global manufacturing map, leading to more diverse and localized production. But what does this mean for China? The future for Made in China is complex. While the shift from China is real, China remains a global manufacturing giant. Its massive domestic market, advanced manufacturing capabilities, and developed infrastructure still attract businesses. However, the move towards high-tech manufacturing and services indicates a shift in China's economic model. China's manufacturing future may lie in moving up the value chain, focusing on advanced and high-tech industries. China is already a leader in electric vehicles and 5G technology. It's also investing heavily in AI and robotics. So while the era of Made in China as we know it may be evolving, China's role in the global manufacturing landscape is far from over. The rise and fall of Made in China is a tale of dreams, innovation, disruption, and change. It's a story still being written, with chapters yet to be revealed. This shift from China reflects our evolving globalized world. It's a shift driven by economic, social, and political factors and groundbreaking technological advances. As we navigate this changing landscape, one thing is sure: change is the only constant in the manufacturing world. The Made in China label may be less prevalent in the future. Still, the impact and legacy of this manufacturing giant will continue to be felt. So, as we sign off from this episode of The Great Manufacturing Shift, we invite you to reflect on this journey and think about what the future holds. Where will the next Made in label come from? And how will that change our world? Only time will tell.